Hey folks, how you doing? Well, this is the third night that we're working on this inspection, okay? And so this evening we're going to go ahead and pull the rear axles out so we can get the drums off and do an inspection on the brake system back there. Now remember, vehicles, especially if they weren't adjusted properly, most of the braking and the heavy wear and tear is typically on the front end of the vehicle. And so I would expect to see, what I saw. Well, not as bad, but you would see, I think, more wear in the drums on the front end. So, and if we get into the back and we pull them apart, we may discover that there's hardly any wear on those shoes and on the drums. But I wanted to cover down on something real quick that has become a question, and I want to just share with people that aren't familiar with the setup. On this is a 42, and I think even on my CJ2, this is really a CJ2A chassis sitting over here, and I've built it to look like an MB. It's an MB2A kit that went on there for the body, but it still has a T90 transmission. But the hub and drum assembly is put together and secured together with wheel studs. So if you look at the hub that came off of this one, you'll notice that the wheel studs go through the drum and they're pressed in through the hub. All right, that sandwiches the hub and the drum together. So you want to replace this, you're going to have to drive out these studs and swap out the right. So this
Swap
is
out the drum.
would have been 1941 through 53. Okay, MBs, GPW, CJ2A, 3A, but then from 53 on up to, and yes, I'm looking at a document, up through 1965, CJ3B, 5, the M38 and the M38A1. We've got a different situation when it comes to the drums and hubs. And so I happened to, now this is funny too, because we were looking at it, I'm like, man, I think I got some new freaking drums laying around somewhere that we could use, but it turns out the ones that I have are for the later model. So in this situation, like most of the newer vehicles, you have your hub assembly, which is on the spindle and snugged up. The drum fits over, okay? It fits over the hub. So you can remove this drum, service the brakes while the hub is still attached to the spindle. And on these particular ones, they had 3 retaining screws that were in place. You just took those out, and most of the time they're frozen on there because of the rust. But you would just simply slide this dude off, do what you had to do, reinstall. And you can see I've got brand new, drums here that'll fit a 1953 up through 65. So that's the difference, all right? So just know that when you're tearing into this thing, and we're going to have to do it, I may as well set up a situation where I can demonstrate separating the hub and drum, just to give you new folks an idea of what you're up against, okay? All right, let's move the camera. Let's get busy on getting these axles out. 9/16 is the bolt size, so we're going to go do some unscrewing. This is how we're going to take it off. We've got 6 bolts here, 9/16. And if you notice here, this has been painted over, but that stud's been broken for quite a while, so we're going to have to get that punched out of there with a hydraulic press and replace the stud. Well, let's see what's going on here, okay? Well, now, look at this. I did not pre-break these loose. That's unbelievable. That's not even torqued down. So that's kind of an issue. Now, there's people out there asking me, dude, why don't you just get your freaking impact out? Well, I have a very good reason why I don't do that. I never throw an impact on these old vehicles to disassemble stuff, because you never know what's frozen on there, and you put too much torque on something, you're liable to snap it. And besides, any mechanic out there that has the feel, and there's a feel, you'll know if something's getting ready to twist off and break or whatever. So I just like to do it by hand. That's how I've always been, and especially with these old vehicles. See, this is coming apart way too easy for me. Look at that. Now that is a blessing to see. This looks like a very good, either new old stock part or whatever, but look how clean that is. So this is good news. You know, I'm always afraid to see what's going on in these things, but all right, here's the little gasket. Real good shape. Okay, and a washer. I need my little pick. I need my pick! Okay, not too horribly bad. Pretty gooey in there. Number 2. Not too bad a shape. Wow, that's interesting. That's really small. Pretty sure that's by design. We can only hope. Come on, baby. Bearing. Ah, yeah. What'd I tell you, D? Okay, so this drum's in pretty good shape, and doesn't look like it needs much except for a replacement seal. And of course, we're going to go and clean the bearings and everything off. But just a very quick look. Now, these are soaked in oil. They're filthy. All right, so even if they are adjusted properly, we're not going to have good stopping power. So we obviously have a leak in this arena. All right, so it's not brake fluid, it's freaking grease that's worked itself out because the seal is useless. All right, so we'll get that all cleaned up and fixed and take care of it. Okay, that's gear oil too, so we're probably getting some. I don't know, it doesn't look, there's no evidence really of anything coming out in that direction, but yeah, we'll get that cleaned up. Pads are thin. Okay, can you see that? Not too bad, but the backing plate's in great shape, but we definitely got some fluid getting in there, and we'll continue to work on that and see where that's coming from. But I am happy with what I'm seeing as far as the condition of everything. We're on the passenger side now. Let's see if we have the same situation. Yeah, look at this. I'm sorry, but I just don't think they ought to be breaking loose that easily. I'm gonna have to check the torque spec on these and see what they're supposed to be, because that was way too simple. I may not have enough room to pull this. Oh yeah, I should. It's a short one. Yeah, see this? This is what I'm talking about. Every now and then I get a nice short bolt in here, and that bolt's got to go in a little bit deeper. And all the power is transferring through this unit to make this wheel turn. So, you know, this system these things need to be tight. Otherwise, this is just going to go tick, 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 and eventually work itself and wear itself out, and, you know, you risk potential failure, which is not. There's another shorty. But hopefully this drum comes off without a problem. And I love these old school drums. You see that little sliver right there? That's so you can get a feeler gauge in there. All right. Perfect. All right. Real nice. And the oil doesn't smell bad either. Okay.
Where's my okay, so the outer one is torque, which is good. Come on, baby. Alright, so we got a little bit of brake drag here. Come on, baby. You're right on the cusp. Otherwise, we're going to have to get in there and do a little eccentric adjustment. I'm hoping we don't have to do. Nope, there we go. We're good.
We are good, my friends. Bearing. All right. Same deal. We got an old seal in here, but the drum looks really good and tons of meat on it. So, yeah, we're styling. All right, this side, not so wet, right? Got a little bit more meat on the bones. A little dusty. Okay. Other than that, I think we look good. So we're going to clean this stuff up. What we should do is put some new seals on here, and we'll go ahead and wash these bearings and do an inspection to make sure that they're good to go. So, you know, I'm pretty happy with how the rear end looks. It's going to be an easy fix and a cheap fix for the back. Hang tight, my friends. It's time to go to the wash bin. So coming from the rear of the vehicle, we're doing pretty good. This is the passenger side rear. There's a lot of meat on this drum, and there's not much of a lip here. Bearings look good. I didn't see any obvious problems with them. They feel a lot tighter than the front ones did. Just things need to be cleaned up a little bit and re-greased and reinstalled. But not until I maybe throw this into the blaster and clean this up and get all this old nasty paint off. You'll notice on here 2 different size washers. So this is your inside bearing. It's not clean all the way. It's your inside bearing. That washer goes in, and you can see that it's the same size as the inner part of the race. That's where it's going to put its pressure. Okay, then we're going to get a nut in there. We're going to snug it up just enough to take the slack out of here and get good free movement but without binding. And then we're going to have a second washer that goes in. I don't remember if it's I believe it's groove in. Doesn't matter. Well, it does matter when you get it assembled. We'll talk about that during assembly. But anyhow, that fits in the groove in the shaft, as does this one here. Okay. So we got this on, and then the outer one. The outer one's actually torqued down a little tighter, just to kind of lock everything in. So it's sort of the setup there. But the bearings are good on both sides. Everything looks great. The reason why the environment was so nasty on this particular unit is because of this seal. Again, these are old leather type seals. I'm pretty sure that's what that is in there. And, you know, fluid leaks. Grease moves around. And these things are pretty important because they serve a couple of purposes. One is to keep grease and lubricants to the inside, but it also prevents dirt and moisture and stuff from getting to the inside from the outside. So remember, this rides against the spindle, so we're missing a lot of seal material here, and we definitely got to get these replaced. So for the rear, I would say a couple of seals. We're going to have to clean the brakes off and get the goo off of them. Go for a reinstall and adjustment, okay? And I think we're going to be okay. Or I'm almost inclined to take these nice good drums and move them to the front, all right? No matter how you slice it, the front end's going to need seals, inner and outer bearings and races. And personally, if it were me, I would get a matched set of brake shoes and some hardware. Get it adjusted, reinstalled, and we should be good. I know that the owner has found a couple of replacement drums, so we'll demonstrate how we remove the drum and separate it from the hub at a later date, okay? Which, hell, it might even be tomorrow night for all I know. So just stay tuned for that, and we'll demonstrate that for everybody. But for all you new folks out there, you know, here's what you got to look forward to, right? You go out, you purchase your first Jeep, you're all excited and you're pumped up, and then you start tearing into things and you start to find these problems. And it's time for me to call it quits for this evening. But not a bad bit of cleaning. I love how the axles look great coming out of there. They're not rusted up. The splines look really good. Everything's clean. And but I didn't have any evidence of gear oil traveling down the tube of the axle. I didn't see that as I was checking inside the tube because initially I thought, well, maybe we're getting gear oil on the spindle on the driver's side rear, but there's really no evidence to support it. So the you know, it's possible that it's the lubricant here from the grease that was used on this particular vehicle. But I have to say, it does appear that they were torqued properly in the back end. And just because of the condition of the bearings and the drums, we're good to go. All right? So, hey, have a wonderful evening. Thanks for watching. And we will keep you posted as we progress through this little safety inspection and how we fix it. Have a good night. Love you.